I'm here to tell you that not all injuries are created equal, especially in the fantasy football world. There are some that are just simply worse than others, and you should know which guys you need to avoid. Here are the top fantasy football injury fades. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts here, the DGEN Doc, but more importantly, I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Did you catch any of the Hall of Fame game last week?
Yeah. It was Trey Lance did his thing, man.
He did.
I think we knew we learned a couple things. Maybe Trey Lance isn't the worst quarterback in the league, and maybe they're on the Lions roster because if Jared Goff goes down,
Yeah,
that's scary. How that situation could go.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, I tuned in for I don't know the first half ish,
Right.
and then I realized that this is still preseason football and it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And it's always fun to catch names of guys that
Right.
you have watched in college and were big time back in the day, but yeah, it's still preseason.
Yeah, I told you, man. Football for me starts week 0 college football when we're actually
Yeah.
getting competitive football. It
Yep.
is nice for like so I'll watch all football, but
Sure.
preseason I think is one of those where you hone in on your teams because the camp battles
Yes.
going on. I don't
Yes.
know all 32 camp battles for every team
Yeah.
that who's going to make the 52, 53 man roster.
That's a
So
great point.
that one is, but Omarion Hampton, it was nice to see him get some burn. Would have loved to
Yep.
see him cut up field and take that into the end zone, but he's a rookie, so we'll see.
Right.
That Lambert Smith guy out of Auburn, that guy
Mhm.
can fly, and he's been making plays
No
in
doubt.
camp. So for guys like that, it's
No
nice
doubt.
to see, hey, this is a guy who can actually maybe get on the field, especially in the Chargers wide receiver room, which is
I was
very
just gonna
improving.
say maybe the Chargers do have some dudes out
Right?
wide to
I
take
mean,
some pressure off of Amari
McConkey
Hampton and
there.
Najee and all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, outside of Lab McConkey, I mean, they got Trey Harris in the second round, Quentin Johnston, but it's not like they have
Yeah.
a real reliable target really at tight end or at wide
Right.
receiver 2 there. So yeah, it was
Yep.
nice, but like one of those preseason for me doesn't do it. I love football, but
Yep.
it's tough for that one.
Yep.
We are now talking. We're getting in the fantasy space here. We're going in the
Right.
fantasy football world. We're focusing on
Yep.
the offense here. We are talking our top fantasy injury fades today. And what that means is essentially we're talking about the players that we believe you should be avoiding in your
Yep.
fantasy football drafts due to the injury risk. Whether they're coming back from an injury, they've got an injury in the offseason. Just there's too many red flags. There's too much concern for us to go ahead and click the button. And
For sure.
we'll talk about, we're going to do this in 3 different levels. We're going to start with guys that, like, out of the question, you should not be touching. There's a really good chance they don't play a fantasy football snap at all, meaning, week 14, 15 on. They
Right.
might not play at all. So there's no reason you could be clicking that button. Then we'll talk about the guys who people are drafting, but we think is a mistake, the top 5 there. And then we'll talk about some not so fast. There's the guys that are kind of getting faded, we think, unnecessarily, and
Yep.
don't think that they should be fully fading these players. So we've kind of got 3 tiers for you tonight. That's kind of how the show will break down. But as we always do, before we start talking into the show here, breaking news. One of your division rivals has decided that there's
Oh,
not
yes.
enough quarterbacks for them. The Cleveland 4.
Did they go to a middle school and snatch some kid?
At this point, I think they
Oh
might be
wait,
having
That's
tryout.
Dylan Gabriel. Never mind. Just kidding.
Yes, Dylan Gabriel, Bryce Young treatment. No, the former Pro Bowler Snoop Huntley has been signed by the Cleveland Browns as of about 10 minutes ago. We're recording this on Monday night, August the 4th. We now have 5 capable question mark quarterbacks in the
Yeah.
room, right? We
Yeah.
have, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If you have 5 quarterbacks, You got an
I
identity crisis? I mean, what are we
I
talking about
mean
here?
you put one at quarterback, one
Right.
out in at wide receiver, put one in the slot, and
Oh yeah.
then I would just be moving them all over the place. Just
You could.
who's going to throw the ball
I,
this play?
I was
I
gonna
don't know.
say the Olympics flag football's coming up. All the double
Right,
passes. I mean, maybe they're
right.
just trying that out. I don't know, but
Yep. Stick
yeah,
Joe
no,
Flacco's, bum ass that can't move back at your normal quarterback
he's
spot,
got to be the
and then stick
all-time
Snoop
QB.
Huntley out there.
Yeah,
Dylan Gabriel can be, maybe your H back or something like that. He
Shedeur
fits
out
that
there
mold a
on the
little bit.
edge,
Yeah,
might
exactly.
work, might work. But yeah, no, with Kenny Pickett dealing with a hamstring, Dylan Gabriel, I think dealing with the hamstring as well.
Yep. And Shador
And
had
then
a sore shoulder
right,
last week,
arm
so
soreness, shoulder something.
yeah.
So I guess they needed an arm, which is the last kind of team I thought needed an extra arm in practice.
Right.
But
Right.
you brought up offline, on my 2025 NFL bingo card, I did not have Joe Flacco being the healthiest Browns quarterback heading into the season.
Agreed.
But right now, that is the case. So
Yeah.
we love Flacco. So maybe we'll get to see Flacco as a week one starter. Who knows? Still, a month away, actually, exactly a month away. 30
Exactly.
days, right? I think 30,
Yeah.
30 days. Yeah, September 4th,
Yeah.
NFL kickoff. So we will see there. The other one I want to talk about news, not a ton over the weekend since we last recorded on Friday.
Nope.
But James Cook is officially standing on business, as the kids say. But yeah, it's always funny when the Rappaport and Schefter are throwing out these slang terms. Like, bro, you're pushing 50. Just say he's holding in, man. Just say he's holding in. I know social media is your thing, but come on, bro.
He's
But
just here
yeah,
so he doesn't get fined.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, he's sitting out of practice. He's
Yeah.
going to practice, but he's not dressed, and
Yeah.
they're dealing with a
So
contract. So, we
yep.
now have 4 hold-ins. As a reminder: James Cook, Terry McLaurin, Trey Hendrickson, and now Micah Parsons. Who I would okay. Here's a question to you.
Yeah.
So, right now we're still 4 weeks away. But at what point, none of them are active, although some of them are on the pup for whatever, none of them are really
Right.
actively dealing with an injury. However,
Right.
when does it become an injury risk? Like, how soon, how much ramp up time do they
Sure.
need? Because we know working out and, practicing football with pads and getting through,
Yeah.
that's different,
Yeah.
and it requires different stress on the body. So when are you starting to get a little worried about these guys? Like, how much time do they need to ramp up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it also kind of depends on the individual player and their role, their position as well.
Hmm.
So, like, for instance, like guys like Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson, like,
Right.
yeah, they're big, strong, powerful dudes, but like, they're not doing a ton of long sprinting kind of things where I'm worried about hamstring stuff.
Right.
And they're not doing a ton of cutting kind of things where I'm worried more so with like soft tissue, ligament, tendon kind of stuff.
Right.
Guys like Terry McLaurin, James Cook, they do all of those things. And I
Correct. Yeah.
think, it does require a little bit more, uh, you know, action potential, force going through those more soft tissue kind of things to make sure that they're ready to roll
Yeah.
come week one. So as far as the timeline goes, like I would love to see them signed basically because that's what we're basically waiting for
Correct. Yeah.
a couple weeks out, right? Kind
Yeah,
of
I
going
think two
into that
weeks.
final preseason game.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is the mark that I would feel comfortable.
Yeah,
Anything less than 2 weeks, again, it's not like an immediate red flag, but it's a concern, right?
a
Getting
little
getting
bit.
back
Yeah,
into football shape and hitting somebody, taking contact. It's
yep,
all part of that progression. It's there for a reason.
for sure.
So yeah, again, these
And
are all
and not
veteran
like these
players,
guys aren't in the building. They're not still working out. Not still getting prepared. But like you
right?
said, there is a difference between weight room workouts and on field workouts
Exactly.
and
And I mean, at least when
running
we
running
we can.
routes or taking snaps or whatever.
Right, and then from what we can see, practice time, they're just watching. They're not
Yeah,
moving really at all because they don't
right.
want to risk injury at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
they
did
maybe
you see that Micah Parsons actually wore his jersey to practice and then was just hanging out, standing there on the sideline today? It's
yeah.
like, what are we doing? If we're gonna take the extra time to go find the equipment guy, get our jersey, like
I heard because he did not do it on one, and this is such a drama. I feel like freaking reality TV, but
that's Dallas for you.
yeah, I know. So apparently, one of the practices he did not have his jersey.
Uh-huh.
So they like made him. Apparently, Coach Schottenheimer said he wants everyone to look the same. So I read that somewhere.
Mm,
So maybe it was a team force thing of like, if you're going to be out here, you
mm,
got to wear. I don't know. It's stupid, but hopefully, I do expect all these guys to be signed and play. And I think,
right.
again, I just think hopefully they have that 2 weeks to ramp up. At this point, not concerned terribly,
Yep.
but once the longer they hold out, the more it's kind of like, all right, are they going to be ready for week one, or
Yep.
they may be on the field, but are they at injury risk? So,
Right.
all right, let's pop into this show here, and we're gonna start with our hospital team here. These are gonna be guys that we are just telling you they're undraftable. Please
Yeah.
don't draft them.
Don't
Don't
waste your
waste
time.
your time. And we're gonna go into why. It's gonna be more of a brief, K. Like, don't press the button. Just do
Yep.
not do it. So these are guys that, again, their injuries, whether so late or it's bad enough that there's a good chance, like there's potential they may not step on the foot on the field at all. But the
Right.
fact that even if they do, that's a win, and we may not expect it until half more than halfway through the season. So that's
No
kind of
doubt.
why the case is like we're just saying don't do it at all, as
Yep.
opposed to some of the other ones where we're kind of, hey, they may play, but don't expect the whole time. So we've have from left to right there, Packers wide receiver Christian Watson. We've got former Bengals running back Zach Moss. We've got Saints Swiss Army Life Taysom Hill, one of 9 tight ends on the roster, and Houston Texans wide receiver Tank Dell. Those are the guys we are telling you don't do it. That's our
Yep.
hospital crew, and we're gonna go into why.
Yep.
Why don't you start off with Tank Dell? Why are we saying don't even do this?
Yeah, anything that could happen to a knee happened to Tank Dell's knee late in the season, week 14.
Yeah.
He had an ACL tear, patella dislocation. I think there was some MCL, maybe LCL or PCL, meniscus
Two
stuff
separate
going on.
surgeries, right? Two
Yeah,
separate
I
surgeries.
mean,
I should tell you. It's a
exactly. I
lot.
mean, if you have to do two separate surgeries on a single joint, there's a shit ton going on,
Mhm.
and just the ACL alone, I and I think you would agree, we wouldn't expect him to be back until at least kind of midway part of the
Right, with
season,
the week 14 December injury, yeah.
exactly, and then plus all of the other stuff, the additional surgery, like that's going
Right.
to delay your timeline even more, most likely. So, we're not expecting him to potentially step on the field until
Yeah.
week 14 again, if not later
That'd be
than
a
that, if
miracle.
not at all.
I think. I mean,
Yeah,
it'd be like a modern medical miracle, man. This guy's like almost burst his knee there,
yeah,
which really sucks because it was on a touchdown and it was friendly fire.
right.
Obviously, not no malintent. It's just kind of football sometimes. But
Yep,
yeah, Tank Dell, great player, but this is his second
yep,
year with an injury, and last year it was just a fibular fracture, like not actually super concerning. But
right.
this is, I mean, like Derek said, if you got a ligament or structure in your knee, he tore it.
Yeah,
So, do not click it. Again, he's on the pup. He's got no real timeline to return. Like, if he returns in the season and plays at all, that's a win. But when we're
yeah.
talking fantasy football, like there's
For him
no
and CJ
realistic.
Stroud and the Texans, they might be counting on him for the playoffs, but at that point, fantasy football is done.
Right.
So we
Right.
are not going to get any use out of Tank Dell from a fantasy standpoint.
Correct. Next guy I'll talk about here is Christian Watson.
Yep.
Um, his was a little bit cleaner of an injury per se, just the ACL tear. I haven't seen anything of like a ton more. Might have been
Yep.
MCL there as well, but it's the when it happened. It happened
Yes.
January 5th. So, from now until week 1, he's going to have 9 months ish. So the research is pretty strong in saying that less than 9 months is a very bad idea.
Yep.
Significant injury, re-injury risk if you come back, whether it's to that sided leg, the other sided leg, like bad news bears if you do that. So
Yep.
he's not going to be back early on. And even if he comes back, midway into the season, when we talk about these ACL tears, there's a significant production dip in the first year after the injury.
Correct.
We don't really want to start trusting these guys until like months 11 and 12 post injury. And that's not going to be until, halfway through the season and on. So
Mhm.
they've already got 55 wide receivers there
All
in
slot
Green
guys.
Bay.
Yeah.
So, it's not like they're at this point, they're going to have people that they trust. Like he might, this is one where he might get back on the field week 12 plus.
Yeah.
But at that point, what are you going to get? What's the trust level there? And I'm not trusting him to do what he does best, which is, fly downfield
Right.
and not pick
Play
up
ball.
another injury or be effective.
Yep.
This is already a guy who struggled with the hamstring things. So,
Yep.
yeah, this is one where, he's on the pup. There's no clear timeline on return. And there's another one where just don't click the button. Save yourself the
Yeah.
headache.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's one of those things where, like, if we had like a second half best ball, he might be worth a flyer just
right,
because he can, like you said, he is kind of their deep threat wide receiver that can absolutely fly and can go for, like, 3 catches, 112 yards and 2 touchdowns.
right.
But at the same time, like, from a regular redraft standpoint, obviously dynasty, like, you're not going to get him in your starting lineup at all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's another one where, hey, he's on the hospital crew. Let him rest and recover and keep him off the team.
Yep.
All right, what do you got next?
Yeah, Taysom Hill, I think, is kind of a similar situation. He tore his ACL the 1st of December last year, but again, with ACL tears, we're talking typically 10 to 12-month recovery timeline. And when it comes to Taysom Hill, like, he could come back, week 6, something like that, but I just don't feel like
He could also
from
not make
a
the team.
well, that's true
He's
too, but
34, and they've
right.
gotten 8 other
And
tight ends in the roster. But yeah,
right, and just production standpoint, like you were talking about with Watson, we don't know what he's going to look like from a wide receiver, tight end standpoint. Like, could he stand back there and play quarterback potentially? But again, could we add him to the Saints' shitty quarterback room, like with the
yeah,
Browns? Like,
right.
I don't necessarily know if he's a full time quarterback at this point. So
Yeah,
again, just from a production dip standpoint, you're not going to see him for probably the first third of the season. Yeah, probably just not worth clicking that button.
yeah. He's got an extra month from Watson. So he's got the 9 months. So I think Watson's actually closer to 8 months with
Yeah,
this when the season starts. But he's 34.
right.
Like Watson's 10 years younger than him. So
Yeah,
yes, you do heal faster when you're younger. That is a real thing.
yeah,
And at this point, I don't really see a clear role for Taysom Hill in this offense. They've
yeah,
got the three backs. They've got, again, 8 other tight ends. Like, as much as we love Taysom Hill, he's awesome in fantasy. Not gonna
yeah.
expect
And
many.
especially with the regime change that we've seen over the last year or two, like,
Right,
if Sean Payton was still there,
right. If he got traded to the
he was Sean Payton's
Broncos,
dude. But yeah, if Sean Payton can pick him up midway through the season,
might
okay,
change the
maybe.
tune. Might change the
Yeah,
tune a little bit.
yeah. But as long as he's on the New Orleans Saints, I don't see him doing much.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one here is Zach Moss.
Yeah,
Look, I don't even know how long we need to talk about them because he was cut from the team that he was on, right?
yep,
Zach Moss, a guy that we both liked early in the season. He was paying off. He was looking good. And then he fractured 3 bones in his neck, 3 vertebrae there. Neck injuries in football players do not match,
yep,
especially at the running back position.
yep.
It is a
Yeah,
very,
we were
go ahead.
talking beforehand. Like, I mean, best case scenario, this is a Peyton Manning situation.
Right.
Peyton Manning did not get hit, and if he was get hit, he fell down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah. And he could barely
So
move his head.
exactly,
Like, that
exactly,
was
and like
tough.
and like you were starting to say, like, this is a running back that has to use his head as a weapon a
Right.
lot of times,
I mean,
and
he's
I
getting
I
hit every
don't
time he gets the ball.
exactly, and this might end up being not even a season ending, but a career ending
Right.
uh, situation here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it tends to be. We think of Chris Carson, Seattle
Yeah,
Seahawks running back a couple years ago. Very similar injury. It's just hard for a team to bless it off. Like there becomes a point where quality of life is more important, and not risking, something permanent or something very detrimental, disabling
yep,
for the player. And
yep,
it sucks, and it sucks for the player, and nobody wants to kind of hear it, but there is a good chance, like the Bengals were with him all offseason. The fact that they
yep,
cut him tells me like he likely played his last snap in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I've seen some people be taking him super late, and it's just there's a decent chance like he does not play football ever again.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to talk about, Zach Moss there. So that's our hospital crew there. That's the people that we believe there's really no value. So we would go ahead and advise you strongly to avoid. Now we're going to move into our kind of top five or our players to avoid, someone where we can have a little bit more conversation. Guys that are
Yeah.
actually getting drafted who we believe, are going way too soon if they should be drafted at all.
Yeah.
So really not a particular order, but just kind of going through the five guys here. We're going to start off with San Francisco wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk. Currently, his ADP is about 110, wide receiver 47 overall. I will give the kind of things to know, and then I'll swing it over to Derek to talk about outlook, and we'll kind of talk through it here. But Brandon Ayuk, he has not only an ACL tear but also an MCL tear, so an ACL plus injury, multi ligament on October 20th against the Chiefs. There, he's got 10 months from when the injury happened until when Week 1 kicks off. He's currently on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list, so he's not practicing at all. This is typically a 10 to 12 month, kind of closer to 11 to 12 when we talk about multi ligament as opposed to just the ACL tear recovery timeline. So, what say you? Why are we avoiding a Brandon Ayuk here?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, and they have other dudes that will probably step up in the absence of Brandon Ayuk
They're gonna have to.
over those first few weeks. Timeline wise, it's going to be a real push for Week 1. I could see him missing the first 3 or 4 weeks
Oh
pretty
yeah, I
easily.
could see him starting. Yeah,
Yeah, and from another weapon standpoint, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got Kittle, Juwan Jennings came on really strong. Ricky Pearsall, once he got healed up from shooting himself or getting shot, I should say.
yeah.
Not
Hey,
shooting
whoa,
himself.
respect my former Gator there.
Getting shot.
He's not
Had
Black
a
Bill Burris.
couple. That's right. Had a couple nice games towards the end of the season. So
Yeah,
from a 49ers standpoint, you got some other weapons there, assuming they get the Juwan Jennings thing situation
yeah, the
figured
cap.
out too.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where Brandon Ayuk at 110 is a little bit of a stretch for me, knowing that you're not going to probably have him for the first quarter of the season.
At least I think, I think there's a good
And
chance he
and
ends up
again,
on
this is an ACL MCL situation where we're probably going to see a performance dip the next 4 or 6 weeks that he ends up playing. So
yeah.
by the time we most likely will see Brandon Ayuk at his strongest, we're going to be in the back half of the season.
Yeah, and he's going around guys like Stephon Diggs, actually. It looks like he's wide receiver 42 right above him. So, I've been asked the question, hey, they very similar. They both have ACL tears. I think
Yeah.
Ayuk actually has like a week or extra of recovery time than Diggs
Yep.
does. Why are
Yep.
we differing on the two
It's a
opinions?
situation thing.
It's but it's also Stephon Diggs has only an ACL. He had a clean ACL tear. It was just an ACL tear where now you have a multi ligament, and then he avoided the pup. That tells you just how much further along he is in his rehab. Like he's been practicing, where Ayuk is still at this point not on the field, and there's no real timeline for him to even be close at this point from what I've been reading. So that's the big difference is the severity of injury, and then you were going to mention the situation.
Yeah, I mean, Stephon Diggs, he is the wide receiver. Not the wide receiver one. He is the wide receiver in New England.
At least he's done a damn thing, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he's already practicing, like you mentioned, and he has to step up for the New England offense to run through Drake May and
the
that
volume
passing.
will be there.
Yes,
right?
no doubt. And I think it's just one of those things where between the two, I'm loving the situation in one and not necessarily fading the situation in San Francisco, but we know that offense just has weapons galore outside. So whether it's, like I said before, Juwan Jennings or Pearsall or they brought in Robinson over the offseason. So
yeah. No, I think, yeah, let's talk about who's going to benefit from this, and I think a guy you should target here. We're going to kind of talk about, hey, spinning off this injury, who should be someone you're targeting. You mentioned Pearsall, Juwan Jennings. We talked about Demarcus Robinson in the past about being one of those
Yep.
sleeper guys that could benefit there. I'm going to throw out George Kittle. I think
Oh
he's a
yeah,
guy that we're higher on than market. And we'll talk about one of the other guys in CMC, but I think George Kittle is going to get a shit ton of volume. You know,
agreed.
we we talked about it, but Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, like a little bit of the unproven. Like Brock Purdy needs somebody he knows he can trust, and right now that's going to be George Kittle for the foreseeable future. So I think George Kittle is going to have a monster season just because, like,
Yeah.
one,
And
he's awesome, but two, just about a pure volume and necessity for this offense.
that and I think CMC coming back into the fold will definitely take away from other options too. I mean, he's
Right.
such a threat out of the backfield through the passing game that you have to respect that and kind of remember that when we're talking fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, there's our Brandon Ayuk situation here. Moving on to our next guy on the list, we're heading down south to Tampa Bay to talk about a guy who was off to an amazing start last season, and
Just a little too
unfortunately,
amazing.
yes, just hitting the over there on his touchdown prop. Derek, not a fan of that. But hip drop tackle, Roquan Smith, ankle dislocated. We all saw it. The leg
Yep.
should not be facing the way it ended up. Thankfully, it's not in the picture because it's pretty gross. But ankle dislocation. He's going around wide receiver 35, so about 12 higher than Ayuk. ADP 75 overall. Typically their recovery timeline's about 8 to 10 months. He's gonna have around 10 months, but when we talk about ankle dislocations, this is where things get a little bit hairy. Where essentially dislocation is the joint. It's the ankle is moved out of where it's supposed to be. Right, it's
Yep.
dislocated. It's displaced from where it's supposed to be. And you
Yep.
have to start thinking about all the other structures that are around that, not just
Right.
the bones, but the ligaments, the arteries, the nerves that can potentially be affected. And
Yep.
so this is a little bit of a Humpty Dumpty situation where, when it's a ligament tear or something like that, you know exactly what you're going in to repair and boom.
Yep.
But when you open up something like a dislocation, especially with how that foot ended up where it's not supposed to be, I mean, it's
Yep.
kind of opening up a can of worms, and it makes the recovery variability wide open. So,
No
for
doubt.
me, it's that whole one, he's still on the pup. He's no
Yep.
real timeline on when he's going to come back. And
Yep.
two, it's a situation where there's just such a wide variety of options of potential outcomes here that it
Yep.
makes me struggle to click this button here at wide receiver 35. Going around guys like Jordan Addison, Jerry Judy, Travis Hunter, George Pickens,
Yep.
Jameson Williams. I'd much rather have those other guys. So, what say you here with the Chris Godwin situation?
And I think they said it all way back in what March, April when they
Oh,
drafted
April, yeah,
his
first round.
probably eventual replacement in Emeka Ibuka, right?
Yep,
I mean, this is another offense that has weapons galore. When we talk about Mike Evans and now Ibuka and Jalen McMillan, you can still throw Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard in there if you want. I don't know if you necessarily want to, but you got
right,
Kate Otten and Bucky. I mean, they got weapons galore.
yeah,
And when it comes to the injury itself, like you said, like not only are we just putting bones back to where they need to be, but tendons have gotten stretched out, ligaments have gotten stretched out. Who knows what kind of injuries happen to other vascular and nerves
yeah,
structures and things. It's not necessarily as simple as just repairing,
right. One
a torn
structure,
muscle or a torn ligament or something like
right?
that. So I think it's just another situation type of a thing where Chris Godwin might still be, their wide receiver two if healthy. He's not.
Yeah,
And, I think it's just one of those things, especially as high as he's being drafted. I have major hesitation when it comes to drafting him at what wide receiver
35.
34, 35, something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's going around other guys that are wide receiver twos, which is,
Yeah.
Judy, Jordan Addison, Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley's a one, Jordan Pickens,
Yep.
Jameson Williams, Ted McMillan. I mean, that's a one, right? Like,
Yep.
it's just not. If he was healthy, yeah, I'd make an argument for him, but it's not the
Right.
case. So we'll play a little bit. You mentioned him. I think Omega Buka is the guy that we're both super high on, and he's the one we target here from this situation. We'll
Yep.
play a little bit of a game here of which ankle is the hurt ankle here for Chris Godwin. This was back in June.
Ooh.
This was back in June. They're early or mid June. They kind of did a uniform reveal. So for the audience, if you're having trouble seeing, I'll zoom in. As you can tell, one of the ankle he doesn't just have cankles on one side.
One of those. Luckily, he has some sort of a white thing behind that ankle because it's a little deceiving. But yeah, that left one looks like
That's blown up. It's
double
very
the size
swollen
of the right.
at that point.
Yeah.
And at that point, I mean, June, you're talking about 7, 8 months away, like 6, 7, 8 months from when he had the surgery. So
Yeah.
it's not like that picture was taken right after the surgery. Like that's
Right.
been months. Like that tells you that this is not a simple injury to come back from. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, Chris Godwin is another one we are going to be avoiding
Yep.
this fantasy football season. Now we're moving from the wide receiver room, we're going to the running back room here, where we are going to be talking about none other than Houston Texan, Mr. Joe Mixon, a guy who really burst onto the scene.
Yeah.
Not onto the scene. We knew about Joe Mixon, but he exceeded expectations early on. He looked great. The Texans' offense looked really good. They were able to run the ball. He was getting, everyone was talking about their passing game, and he was getting all the touchdowns. He was paying off well. And then he got hurt in about week 13, week 14. He
Yep.
had a high ankle sprain. And then they didn't say, but it came out now and said he re injured the injury a couple weeks later.
Yep.
And we saw him struggle all the way until they got
Foot
knocked out of the
thing,
playoffs.
ankle thing. Yeah.
Right. And then now, I mean, playoffs happened 8 months ago. So we're at the point where we're expecting him to be ready to go. And then he comes up with this foot ankle thing again and this mystery. But from what I've kind of been able to glean and read from the local reporters, is that it is likely a re-injury to this. It's the same foot and
Yep.
ankle area, and is
Yep.
likely a third re-injury to the same ligaments. We talk about high ankle sprains and low ankle sprains. They're a completely different world, right? They sound very similar, but it's
Right.
different. It's not your typical ankle. It's between the two bones, your tibia and your fibula there, your lower leg bones. You have a syndesmosis of ligaments, a web of ligaments
Look
that
at you throwing out these big terms. I like that.
I know. I'm being a
Such a
nerd. But it's harder to damage these ligaments. It requires a significant amount of force, which means it takes longer to repair. And these can nag. So, when you have them in the season, they can last, as we can tell, like they are really hard to repair. They need a lot of time. And the fact
Yep.
that it's not working still, and there was
Yep.
another re-injury, is very concerning for me. So, he's going at RB20 right now. I think that's entirely too high. He's on the non-football injury list. What say you? How do you read this Joe Mixon situation?
Yeah, I'm surprised that we, a week or so ago, a few days after we heard that he re-injured this foot ankle for a third time, that he didn't undergo a little surgery and get that tightrope
Right.
just done. Because typically with that surgery, you're back in what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah, 6-ish
I mean,
weeks. Yeah, 6-ish.
yeah, I mean, so
And
even if he ends up on the pup and misses the first 4 weeks, like at least that thing is rock solid
right.
the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Right now, he just had 8 or not 8 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks, 3 months or so since
Yeah.
the last time he's touched the ball, stepped on a field, and all of a sudden, bang, just like that, it's hurting him again. So
It's very concerning. Off season there adds a layer of mystery with
yeah,
this stuff. Some people are calling it a foot thing, and no one really kind of has, other than the Texans and him, really know exactly what's going on.
right,
There was pictures of him in a boot in May. People kind of were like, "Did he get the tightrope surgery?" I hope not for his sake, because if it clearly didn't work, if that's the
right,
case, right? So,
right.
just a lot of don't want to rely to say bad vibes, but yeah, there's a lot of concerning flags.
Yep.
And so when we talk about the guy to target here, I'm gonna throw out a guy. I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. You got
Yeah.
Nick Chubb, who's pushing 30 and is basically bionic
You
man at
got
this point.
Damian Pierce that has done things in the past.
Right.
Last year struggled.
Right, and kind of the opportunity there, and
Yep.
then you have the Woody Marks, the rookie, who got picked up in the 4th round. Now,
Yeah.
Damian Pierce just got activated off the pup today. He just passed his physical. It was a quadriceps strain he was dealing with, so he hasn't really been in the mix. But he's starting to practice tomorrow.
Yep.
Right now his ADP is like 90 plus, like he's going undrafted.
Right.
I'll be honest. I mean, the dude almost rushed for 1,000 yards his rookie year. Like he's the dart throw I'm taking. I mean, I'm maybe a
Sure.
little biased because he's a Florida guy, but he runs so damn hard. Like
Yeah.
uh, Nick Chubb, it'd be a great story. I mean, the reports out of camp is it just doesn't look the same, and it's kind of hard to expect him to.
Right.
And yes, Woody Marks the rookie, but I really think that Damian Pierce, like he's done things in the NFL, like he's
Yep.
looked good in the NFL. So I think if he gets the opportunity, like Damian Pierce is a guy that I could see ultimately carving out a role for himself, and we'll see when
Sure.
Mixon does return. But I think there's going to be opportunity there, and so I mean, it is a complete dart throw for me. But I think Damian Pierce is kind of the one. He's the cheapest one, and I think that he's the one in my eyes that show me he's the hardest runner, and that's the kind I'm kind of backing. Do you have any preference there at any of those kind of three, or are you just avoiding it at all?
I'm probably avoiding the
Yeah,
Houston running back room as a whole, to be honest with you, just because
don't
there's
blame
so much unknown, and there are some other running back duos or running back by committees that I think you can at least say that they're definitely going to have a role.
me. Right.
Where Marks and Pierce and Chubb, it's like one or two of these guys are going to get some run, but I don't know if all three of them will.
Yeah, one of them could get cut. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
good chance they don't,
yeah,
like, yeah. So,
that's a good point too.
or practice squad or whatever. So,
Right.
all right, we are now heading to South Beach where we are shooting a music
Oh,
video,
your
or what are we?
guy.
Mister the rapper himself, Darren Waller, the soon to be 33-year-old who washed up in Miami and has now found himself in a Dolphins uniform. Maybe. Haven't really actually seen him in it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Darren,
As the guy that does most of the graphics, I struggled mightily to find him in a Dolphins jersey.
or probably any jersey at all because it's been a while. But
Yeah.
Darren Waller coming in at number, look, I don't care he's getting drafted at tight end 29. I don't care if 216. People are still drafting this man, and I have no idea why. Look, Darren Waller was just a rapper. Like, there's a difference between a guy he literally was trying to do a whole rap career. He quit
Right.
on the New York Giants at 2023 season. He said, I don't want to play football. He was under contract. He had to get traded. He was still under contract. He quit. He said, I'm done. I don't want to play football. And then he
Yep.
took the entire year off. So he basically didn't play for a year and a half. And when you look, the man has not done a damn thing since 2020. Since
Nope.
2020, COVID was when this man was relevant. And now this is the plan, the realistic tight end one for the Miami Dolphins. It is absolutely laughable on all accounts that this is like the fact we talked about it, but the fact they let Cincinnati sign Noah Fant is idiotic. I mean, it confirms to me
Crazy.
that they're an
Crazy.
unserious organization this year about winning football games. So he's on the pup because although everyone says he's in great shape, clearly it's been like a week and a half, 2 weeks since he's been
Yep.
signed. Nowhere on the field because he's not in football shape.
Yep.
So not only does he have to get in football shape, but then we're gonna put pads on him and actually have him take hits. A guy who has had back injuries in the past. So
Right.
I'm rambling because I'm like I tried to talk myself into this as a Giants fan like 3 years ago. I can't believe we're having this conversation right now, but am
Yeah.
I crazy or there's no way you're taking Darren Waller, right?
No. I'm not touching Darren Waller with a 10-foot, 20-foot pole. It's just one of those things where I think what he's going tight end 29, something
Right,
like
which
that.
is
Like,
late, but there's other guys that
yeah, give me Mason Taylor or Schultz or give me Chig. I don't know, Elijah Arroyo
Juwan
out there in
Johnson?
Seattle, Juwan
Guys, like,
Johnson.
what do like
Give me Cole Kmet in Chicago, like as a
right,
backup tight end. That
right.
I think it's just one of those things where everybody thinks that he's a tight end number one. He's gonna get. I don't know if he is.
No, I if Darren Waller finishes the season, I'll
Yeah,
be amazed. Whether he finds a new rap career song that he wants to make, he gets broken up with and wants to lie in the water again.
just gets
Whether
broken as in general because he's
right,
out of shape and it's
exactly,
been a few years
or
since
he
he's taken
just
a hit.
mentally quits. That
Yeah.
is essentially what he did. He quit football. He said, "I do not want to play football." Sat on the not even sat on the couch, did whatever rappers do for a
Yeah.
year and a half, and then now
Sat in
he's
the recording
suddenly
room.
right. Yeah, it's amazing that this is an actual story and that people are actually. I mean, I have not been able to find a prop where I can bet the under. I
Hmm.
hope because I've seen some bullshit like one way markets where the books are like, oh, bet Darren Waller to get 5 receiving touchdowns at plus 250, which is a fucking
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
If a book doesn't even hang anything I can bet the under on, it's not a serious player. It reminds me of the Aaron Rodgers shit
Yeah.
we had to deal with last year. He's going to come back in 6 months because of the Speed Bridge from an Achilles.
Bullshit.
Yes, we told you it was bullshit, and lo and behold, bullshit. So, yeah, Darren Waller definitely not getting drafted by either of us here.
No.
All right, last guy on the list here, and this one's a fun one because nobody knows what the hell is going on there.
Couldn't
Najee
even find a
Harris,
picture of his eyeballs.
he may not have any at this point. Unconfirmed. How many eyeballs Najee Harris has? 4th of July. I put out my annual JPP tweet. Everyone be safe. Clearly, Najee Harris was not following.
Yep.
Got into an incident with some fireworks. He's still going
You might
around.
want to drop into Najee's DMs just to make sure he gets it next year.
I don't know if he can see the message, but we'll see.
Fair.
Uh,
That's fair.
but I mean,
Somebody can tell him.
yeah, ADP 100, RB 36. At first, Najee Harris is a guy that in the offseason, pre any of this drama, we were kind of like,
We were
he's
kind of
got
high on
1,000 yards every year. Like he could, this could be a 1-2 backfield with Amari and Hampton. Now, ever since 4th of July, they said originally Reddit reports, Reddit is like, dude, this guy lost his eye, whatever. Like, oh my God.
Right.
And then it was like his agent was like, no, it was superficial. He's fine, whatever. So we believed him. And now it's been this, all we've seen of him is with the hoodie and the ski mask and the glasses, and you have no idea. So, this is an interesting one because we don't even know, other than it happened to his eyeball, what the injury is. But
Right.
there's some very clearly concerning signs. He's
Oh, yeah.
on the non-football injury list, right?
Yep.
Firework to the eyeball. He's been on there for a month now because, injury 4th of July. So it is, we're turning this August 4th.
Yeah.
I read today and I saw a video. He's currently walking laps as part of his rehab.
It's a good way to get back in football shape.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Got to keep that ocular pressure.
Right.
Down,
So, dude, when I read this, I was like, okay, he's not coming back from a bone injury. He's not coming back from anything lower body. He's clearly not that deconditioned in his lungs that he needs to walk. So I'm thinking, like, this dude may not be cleared to run and jump yet from whatever the hell is going on with his eye. Like, whatever procedure, whatever thing he had, like, they may not have allowed him at this point. His medical provider may not allow him to be running and jumping. Like, I was thinking about, I just got my wisdom teeth out. They were like, all right, no running, jumping for a week, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like, why would this guy be walking around? Why would he not at least be jogging or running or doing something?
Can't get the heart rate too high. We can't blow that eyeball full of blood.
Like, dude, this scary. Like, I originally was like, okay, superficial, like, not ready to fully fade Najee. But, like, every day that passes that we don't see this man's eye or see him anywhere close to doing anything football related, I'm more and more convinced he's Nick Fury and he's going to run with an eye patch. Like, I don't think. And this is
honestly,
not the guy.
I could see Jim Harbaugh throwing him out there anyways and say, "Hey, go get your 4 yards in a cloud of dust."
No, we've kind of supported Najee Harris, but like vision hasn't been one of his superior traits. So now you're telling me he's only got one eye. But yeah, I mean, look, we're having some fun with it, but I am seriously concerned of like what the hell's going on. There's no timetable to return. We're now a month out from the season. The most he's done is walk around. Like,
Yep.
clearly, it is unsafe for this guy to be doing anything close to football right now, whether
Right.
with pads or not pads. So I'm thinking, like, in the progression terms, when is he going to be allowed to take hits? When is he
Sure.
allowed to, like, run, jump, like, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I think it's pretty insane. But what say you? I mean, are you taking Najee Harris?
I struggled with this one. I At this point, like you said, I think it just with every passing day, it's like, when are we going to see this guy on the field? Whether it's practice or what? Like, I think, and especially where he's going, you can still get other RB1, RB2s. Like, that's in the Javonte Williams, ETN, J.K. Dobbins range,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken. So, like, there are other guys that are probably going to get a fair amount of carries that you can easily take over Najee Harris. And I think it's just an interesting, development here where, like you said, we're both strong Najee supporters. And
We
we thought
were.
that, this could be a pretty even 50-50 split.
Right.
If not, Najee ends up kind of being the workhorse.
Right.
And I think you're just opening up the door to say, Omarion Hampton, take the ball, run with it, be the RB1 for the rest of the season at this point.
Yeah, I think that's it's Marion Hampton originally was someone we kind of are a little bit rookie hesitant here.
Yeah,
Wasn't someone I was originally jumping on, but now it's hard to not, right? Like,
right.
how are we not jumping on this situation
Especially
here?
behind those two big tackles, and you got Herbert there slinging the ball around to somebody other than Lad
Right.
McConkey. So, yeah, I think to me, this is probably more of a fade, sadly, than anything. And I may not end up getting any Najee Harris when it comes to fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. So Najee Harris rounds out our top 5 guys to avoid due to injury risk there. We're going to move on to some guys where not so fast there. And as of the great Lee Corso would say, not so fast. Can't wait to watch, last one, sadly, college game day there. But before we get to those, I got to tell you about some of our awesome, awesome sponsors here. We're talking fantasy football. You can't talk fantasy football without talking Bob Lung's Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. It's his 10th annual edition for a reason. Everybody wants it. I mean, when you talk about something you can rely on, it is the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide for this season. So go ahead and get yours today for a measly $15 over on Amazon there. Just search 2025 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. We also wanted you to check out our flagship there at idpplus.com. We're trying to do everything in our power to help you get a leg up, be a better fantasy player, be a more profitable bettor, and just enjoy football, be a better fan overall. Got to do it over on idpplus.com. We've got a subscribers only Discord. We've got different levels of subscription where you get subscribers only content to ensure you're getting a leg up on your league mates there. We are in August, and we are the week of the 2025 Fantasy Football Expo. Get your last minute tickets today at thefantasyfootballexpo.com, August 8th through the 10th. Beautiful Canton, Ohio. We will have some of our content creators and members of the team being out there. So definitely grab a drink for us. Tell them hello. And then finally, we can't talk fantasy without Fast Draft Fantasy. It's in the name, folks. You got to start drafting faster today. We've only got a month until the season. Our time is precious. So we know we got to get as many drafts in as we possibly can. So we got to do it over at Fast Draft Fantasy. Clock is 20 seconds. All drafts under 10 minutes. And we're going to make the deal sweeter right now. Use promo code plus DGENDOC. Deposit $50 and boom, get a $50 bonus bet right into your account. All you got to do, download Fast Draft Fantasy, use the promo code plus DGenDoc, and boom, once you deposit $50, you get a free $50. All right, not so fast. We just talked about all the guys you want to avoid. Now we're going to talk about some players that seems like is getting a lot of buzz about I should fade this guy due to XYZ injury concerns. But we're
Yep.
going to kind of call a little bit of BS. We're going to say this is a bit of a myth here. And the reason for that is that just doesn't back. We're going to
Yeah.
go a little Mythbusters. So we've got Benedict Barkley himself, Saquon Barkley. We've got Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson. Obviously, three of the top 10, top 15 fantasy guys in
Yep.
collectively, I think everybody agrees with those are some of the top dudes. So we want to talk
Yes.
about them because there's been a lot of chatter about you got to avoid this guys. And we're just kind of saying not so fast. Might
Yep.
have some pause, right? Maybe, you're not fully going in, but to fully fade these guys, we think is a mistake. We'll start with Benedict Barkley here. Right now, RB2. Again, I'm going off Fantasy Pros here and some ADPs there. And we're getting drafted around 3, 4, 5 there.
Yep.
The concern is 400 plus carries last year. He does have a decent injury history. But what are you doing with Saquon Barkley? Because let's be honest, he's still in an amazing situation that had him almost go for 2,000 yards and have an incredible season last year.
Yep.
So where are we at with Saquon?
Yeah, I mean, he's still a top 5, top 6 pick for me. I think it's one of those things where we had Bijan Robinson ahead of him. I believe we had Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of him as well.
Right,
And
right there for
when,
us though.
yeah, when you throw a couple wide receivers in there, like I still don't know if I'm drafting anybody ahead of Saquon Barkley. Getting outside the top 5, top
Right,
6.
he should not
You
get
know,
outside the top 5.
exactly. I think, like you said, the situation is just way too good. He's got the best offensive line in the league, and he just came off his best season by far. So I will say I have a little bit of hesitancy. I would not be surprised if he misses a game or two
Right.
throughout the season. I'm not necessarily expecting him to have another 2,000-yard season, but he's gonna be a stud.
Yeah, he's set up for too good of six. Like his situation and his athletic ability are too good to fully fade.
Yep.
Right now, again, injury history, greatest predictor of injury is previous injury.
Yep.
That's kind of how that's the number one risk factor for an injury is previous injury to that body part, right?
Yep.
The 400
Yep.
plus carries is, almost unheard of. It's a very high workload and volume. So I don't think either of us are expecting him to be able to carry the load to that aspect, to that level, right? But I think if you're fully fading Saquon, you could be in for a world of hurt. Like we said, I don't think you should let him get past, top 5 and 6. I'm not telling you to draft him number 1 overall. We have Bijan, we have Jahmyr ahead of him. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is a situation where I've seen some people say, I'm totally out on Saquon this year. I think that's a bit naive, a bit foolish
Agreed.
there.
Agreed.
Another guy in a similar situation, but a little bit different here. Christian McCaffrey. He's
Yeah.
coming in around RB5. He was kind of, getting faded a little bit more back in the offseason. But,
Yep.
we're coming off a season where it was just a mess. They lied to us. Dirty bastards lied to us. Said it was a little calf strain, which is very, very different than Achilles tendonitis. Very different.
Bilaterally.
Yeah, exactly. He dealt with that for the majority of the season. Then he comes back, actually looks pretty damn good, and then he falls hard on very frozen ice and gets PCL sprain, and now
Yep.
season was done. So, on one hand, you have a situation where this is some of the lowest volume he's had, and when he's
Yep.
kind of had some of these injuries in low volume years, the next year he kind of goes nuclear.
Yes.
And you have a situation where he's on an offense where outside of him and George Kittle, there's not a lot of proven commodities on the San Francisco 49ers offense. So the
And
expectation,
especially you add in an offensive line that has lost a couple pieces over the last year or so. And what is a quarterback's best friend is a running back out of the backfield. And who better to throw it to than probably the best pass catching running back that we've seen in probably
right.
the history of football
Yeah.
in Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, CMC is another one where, I'm not quite as high on McCaffrey as kind of some other people are,
Yep.
but again, like you're really playing with fire if you're trying to go in with 0 Christian McCaffrey next season.
Yes.
Like
If he drops outside the top 10, like
yeah, I would
10,
say, yep,
10, 12. Like
10 to 12 for me.
yeah,
First round, right? He should
yeah,
be going at the end of the first round, which he is in some. But again, it's kind of, you have your ADP and they're constantly changing and things like that. But again, I've
yeah,
seen Christian McCaffrey's washed, he's done, yada yada yada. Like I'd be really careful because
yeah.
he's 29 only, right? He just turned 29 too, so he'll be 29 throughout the season.
And like you mentioned, he has basically no burn last year, or had no burn last year. So
Yeah,
he's a year removed from that 400 carry season, 400 touch season, but
right.
um,
And the
he's
PCL,
probably about as healthy as he's been for a while.
yeah, and the offseason has been like way more time than needed for either of these injuries. So
Yeah,
it's not a situation where he's coming off a major ACL or something like that, where there's some
yeah,
still he's recovering. Like he's not recovering from either of these injuries.
right.
So, all right, last guy here, Justin Jefferson. This
Yep,
one's insane to me that even needs to be said, but I've literally seen posts about how they're fading Justin Jefferson here because of this mild hamstring strain he suffered early in the offseason. Like they got an MRI. It's described as
yeah,
very mild. It's the
yep,
opposite leg of when he had those issues back in 2023. And he had
right.
6 weeks of recovery time. Like it is absolutely asinine. Like as you're ramping up for football, like it's soft tissue injury season, like it's gonna happen. But it
Yep,
all matters when it happens and like the severity. It's a
yep,
minor low severity. It should only take 3 weeks max, but really 1 to 2 weeks when we're talking about in the season to come back from this injury. And
yep,
he's got 6+ weeks. Like
yep.
he's going right now. ADP's number 5 or at 5, wide receiver number 2. I've seen in drafts him get up outside of the top 10, and I think
Absolutely
that's
crazy.
insane. I
Yeah,
mean, this
yeah.
is
He's another one. If he drops past 5'6", automatic
yeah.
grab this guy, because I mean he's one of the best two wide receivers
He's
in the
one A
league.
one B.
Yeah, I think him and Jamar, like you said, one A, one B, and this is a situation where if JJ McCarthy is anything, this dude could have a hell of a season because he's gotta step up for his basically rookie quarterback there in Minnesota, and I think, like you said, injury wise, this dude is probably perfectly fine today.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but obviously he's
And
one of the best wide receivers in the league. They're gonna protect their guy.
they have a very good plan for him as far as ramping him up. And I don't want him to just sit in bubble wrap until week 1. I want him to be
Right.
ramped up. And Kevin O'Connell has spoken about how there's no concerns for week 1, but we want to make sure we're getting him ready and ramping up. Like he wants to be back on the field. And
Yep.
the guy's quarterback proof. Like every single season he's gone for over 1,000 yards. Even that 2023 terrible year, he went for
Right.
1,074 yards and 5 touchdowns on 68 catches. Every other year, including his rookie season, he's gone for over 1,400 yards. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just coming off barely, under 1,600 yards last year. Like, and he hasn't had the best quarterback play, whether it's
Right.
Kirk Cousins, the Pastronaut, Nick Mullins, Sam Darnold. So
Yep.
we're not like extraordinarily high on JJ McCarthy, but it doesn't take a savant to get the ball to one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Right.
So yeah, Justin Jefferson, absolutely a guy you should not be
Smash
fading.
play.
Yes, I mean the mini discount we're getting, scoop it up because
Yep.
he is not someone you do not want to have in fantasy football this season. All right, brother. Fun episode. That was our
Yeah.
little bit of hey, we're getting back to our injury grind here.
That's right.
This is what we do. So these are your guys that we went through, guys you shouldn't touch in the Untouchables hospital crew, guys you should avoid at where they're going. Their ADP is too high. There are red flags all over the place. And then some guys that so fast there. Be careful, fade
Yep.
at your own risk type. Those kind of bona fide studs that we think are still set up for a good season.
Yep.
What do you got for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, coming soon to IDP Plus, we're going to be talking about guys that are coming off of injuries that we absolutely love, that are way further down in terms of their ADP than they probably should be.
Right.
These are guys that we're trying to take advantage of much earlier than the other people that are in our leagues. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about some stuff over on on bets when it comes to college football kind of stuff. That's going to be
Yeah.
coming up here in just a few weeks. We're going to be talking about
We've
I
got
don't know what else. We
awards.
got some awards. We got some Super Bowl picks. We got we'll probably do a best ball here in a couple
Draft.
weeks.
Yeah, we got
So
my
we got
guys.
all kinds of stuff coming
Yeah,
up.
we got a lot coming at you. Like Derek said, by the end of this week, you'll have. So we're telling you who to fade. And we're going to tell you, from an injury perspective, who actually is undervalued, who's the bounce back candidate guys that we'll get into. But yeah, and then if you're into making some money, definitely check out the IDP Plus Bets channel. We did all 8 division previews. We went through best bets. We're throwing out our 32 team previews. And like Derek said, we'll be doing a college football preview, talking some, futures awards market there. So if you want to make some money, head over to bets. And if you want to be a better fantasy football player, check out all the great content we have here at IDP Plus, not just our stuff, especially if you're in the defensive side. We've got a ton of great content creators that are really killing it in that space. So definitely check that out. And it's time for you to start ramping up your training camp program. You can't just flip on the TV week 1 and expect to be the fan you want to be. It's time like now that you got to start preparing. So, hey, folks, we appreciate you letting us have some fun here. If you enjoyed the show, give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what guys that you want to fade, what your opinions you want. If you want to reach out to us on social media, Derek is at Professor Locks. There at prof_lock2. I'm at the DGEN Doc on X, on all social media accounts. You can find us very, very easily. We'd love to chop it up with you, talk ball.
Yep.
Other than that, folks, from the Professor Locks and the DGEN Doc here at IDP Plus, we are out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.